welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to read more Louie. And guys, let's get started with chapter 8. And guys, do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment all down below. And guys, don't subscribe to my cousin's channel, Jenna Trong. And guys, I hope you enjoy. Chapter 8. Things were still pretty quiet when Charles' dad took the boys down to Loon Lake Park after school the next day. Opening day is this weekend, said Charles, pointing to a sign at the park welcome booth. Free ice cream and free canoe rentals all day. He read. Cool! He should have another picnic down here on Saturday. Hunter and me always have a contest to see which of us goes swimming first every spring, said Tyler. Last year he won. He jumped in on April Fool's Day. This year I'm going to win. And I don't know, said Liam. That water still looks pretty cold to me. He rubbed his arms. Brrr! Louie doesn't seem to mind, said Charles. Look at him go. Louie had pulled the leash out of Charles' hand, dashed right past the welcome booth, and charged into a shallow water near the canoe racks, chasing some geese who had been floating on the choppy gray waves. Now he swam in a big circle, happily splashing away as the geese honked and flapped their wings at him. Lizzie was right about his breed, said Dad. He's an amazing swimmer. Come on, Louie, said Charles. Leave the geese alone. He whistled and waved. Louie, finally, the dog turned and swam back toward shore with a powerful and sure strokes. When he emerged from the water, he raced up and down to the beach, stopped to shake off, then lay down and rolled happily in the sand. Charles groaned. So much for his bath, he said. Come on, Louie. Have to look for clues. He went over and clipped the big dog's leash onto his collar. Ready? Louie grinned a doggy grin up at him and shook off again, spraying all the boys with water and gritty sand. I'm always ready for an adventure. Ugh, said Tyler. Liam just laughed. Louie groaned, Charles, wiping at his pants. You were the one who wanted to foster a big, sloppy dog again, his dad reminded him with a smile. I know, said Charles, and he's worth it. He tousled Louie's wet ears. Aren't you, big guy? Let's go look for clues. Tyler pulled a huge magnifying glass out of his pocket and put it up to his face. Charles and Liam laughed at the giant eyes staring back at them. Maybe we should head back to the upper parking lot where we first saw Louie, Dad suggested. I don't see any clues down here, Louie led the way as they hiked across the little bridge and up the path through the woods. As they came out of the parking lot, he stopped still and stared. What is it, Louie? Charles asked. He peered down to the end of the parking lot. A man and a woman stood near the spot where Louie's crate had been. Louie leaned against Charles' knee. Then he took a few paces forward and tugged at the leash, staring at the people. Then he slunk back again to Charles. Louie, Charles asked, what's the matter? When the woman turned around and spotted them, Harley, she shouted. She knelt and opened her arms. The man turned too. What? He said. It's really him. Come here, boy. Louis didn't seem to know what to do. He looked up at Charles. They're my people, but I'm scared and confused. Charles' dad strode toward the couple. Hello, he said. I'm Paul Peterson, and you are. We are that dog's owners, said the man, pointing to Louis. I'm Stephen, and this is Sarah. You were his owners, Dad corrected. If I'm not wrong, you abandoned him here. He looked up back at Charles and Louis. We didn't mean to, blurted Sarah. She looked as if she'd been crying. I mean, we did leave him here, but then we realized that it was the wrong way to do it. We came back, but he was already gone. We just couldn't keep him, said Stephen. We lost our lease at our apartment just after I lost my job. We've basically been living out of our van. We were staying here in the park, even though it's not open yet. It's been so stressful, said Sarah. Harley picked up on it. He tried to run away or hide under the van every time we had an argument. We thought he'd be better off in a real home. We were going to call the animal shelter to let them know where we'd left him, but then he wasn't here anymore. We didn't know what to do, and now you're back at the scene of crime, announced Tyler, looking at them through his magnifying glass. Classic. That's what all the criminals do. They can't stay away. We're not criminals, said Sarah. We came back because we thought maybe he'd escaped from the crate and he was looking for us, said Stephen. We wanted to make sure he was okay. Louis was still leaning against Charles' leg. Charles scratched the top of the big puppy's head. He didn't escape, he said. We rescued him. My family is fostering him until we can find him a good home. Sarah's eyes brimmed with tears. We missed you so much, Harley, she said. She held her hands. Finally, Louis ran to her. She buried her face in his fur. Stephen knelt down to hug the dog too. Charles looked at his dad. Now what? Did they have to give Louis back to the people who had abandoned him? Chapter 9. On Saturday's opening day at Loon Lake Park, Charles and his family and the whole Club Scout den and their families got together for another picnic. Charles and his dad told everyone that had happened with Sarah and Stephen. I still can't forgive them, said Lizzie, for the 40th time since she'd heard about it. How could they leave a dog alone like that? They just weren't thinking straight, said Dad. Stephen and Sarah are just through a rough time right now. They were really sad about having to give up their dog, but now they understand that there are better ways to do that. They're hoping to get another dog once they are back on their feet, and I'm sure they would never make the same mistake again. Anyway, Louis is safe with us now, said Charles, after he explained how he fostered dogs. Sarah and Stephen were happy to know that we're going to find him a good home. They even said it's okay to keep calling him Louie if we can't get used to Harley. Probably whoever adopts him will change his name anyway. He passed his sister a popsicle he had just gotten the ice cream from the ice cream stand. Come on, forget about all that. Let's have some fun, like Louie. He pointed to the beach where Louie and Buddy were wading in the shallow water, splashing through the tiny waves as they chased the ball Mom was tossing for them. Charles was so glad that the dogs were allowed at Loon Lake. I have you guys credit, said Lizzie. I think Louie's ready for a new home with all the work you've done with him. Your den project is a success. She held up a hand. Charles returned Lizzie a high five. It's easy when you're working with a dog like Louie. He's such a good boy. A real sweetheart, agreed Dad. There were other families at the lake that day, too, and other dogs. Charles spotted a husky and a Pomeranian, two breeds he knew from fostering experience. People were throwing frisbees and grilling hot dogs. Kids were racing around the playground, swinging on the swings and sliding down on the slides. The kayaks and canoes were off their racks and floating in the water. Each one was tethered by rope to the long deck, ready for boaters to take out. Loon Lake Park was all set for summer, but it wasn't exactly summer yet. The water was still cold so far. There were no kids jumping off the docks or showing off their special dives or floating on blow-up rafts. Still, Tyler and Hunter had put on their swim trunks and raced down to the water. Seconds later, they raced to the picnic table. It's freezing, said Tyler. So cold, said Hunter. I could only put one toe in. I don't know how Louie and Buddy can take it. He reached for his sweatshirt and pants and pulled his clothes on over his suit. I told you it was too early for swimming, Miss Pagano laughed. It won't be warm enough for a few weeks. Can we go out in a canoe? Tyler asked. Their parents looked up at each other. Then their mom nodded. Go pick one out, and we'll take it for a paddle after we eat. Can we go too? Liam asked his mom. Sure, said Mrs. Pooley. Or maybe we'll take one of those double kayaks. Soon, all the scouts were down by the dock looking over the boats. I learned how to steer a canoe when I was at camp last summer, said Sammy. The steerer sits in the back. You use the paddle in a special way to use the canoe to go left or right. Right, stern, said Liam. What? Asked Sammy. The back is called the stern, Liam said, and left and right are port and starboard. He grinned. I went to camp too, but I never got that good at steering. I like to sit up front in the bow and paddle. Maybe we should do a canoe trip someday, said Charles. We should bring all our camping stuff and go up a river like Lewis and Clark. He had once done a project on the explorers, and he'd never forgotten their amazing adventures. Liam pointed to a sleek red kayak with 2 seats. I want to learn how to paddle one of those, he said. I bet you can go really fast. Hunter and Tyler had walked down to the end of the dock and climbed into one of the big green canoes. Hey, said Charles, you're not to go out in those without a life jacket on. We're not going anywhere, said Tyler. We don't even have paddles. We're just checking it out. Come on in, it's cool. Liam and Sammy got into the canoe, stepping in carefully to keep it from tipping. Charles stood on the dock, not so sure he wanted to get in. The canoe was already beginning to look a little low in the water with 4 boys in it. Tyler started to shift his weight from side to side. The canoe tilted widely. Woohoo! Cried Tyler. Cut it out, said Sammy. Hey, stop it, said Liam. Grabbing the sides of the canoe, Hunter started throwing his weight in the opposite direction. Water squished up around the canoe. Boys, Charles heard Hunter and Tyler's mom shout as she ran down from the picnic tables. Get out of that boat right now. At that moment, the canoe flipped over and all 4 boys fell into the water with a huge splash. Chapter 10, Hunter and Tyler bobbed right up with big grins on their faces. I won, said Hunter. No, I did, said Tyler. Sammy splashed his way toward the dock, flipping his hair out of his eyes. Phew, that's cold, he said as he hauled himself out. Where's Liam? Asked Mrs. Paganel. Liam! Just then Charles saw Liam's head break the surface of the water. Can't swim, he gasped before he sank down again. Charles didn't even stop to think. He jumped off the dock toward Liam. He knew that the water was deep only at the very end of the dock. If he could pull Liam in just a few feet, the water wouldn't be over his head. The water was so cold, it took Charles' breath away, but there was no time to get used to it. He swam as hard as he could toward Liam. As he got closer, Liam popped out of the water again, yelling and flailing his arms. Help! He said. Can't swim. Charles wasn't sure what to do. How could he grab Liam without getting bashed? He heard a big splash behind him. A moment later, Louie passed him, swimming with a powerful strokes straight for Liam. The dog ignored the flailing arms and grabbed Liam's shirt in his jaws. Then he powered back toward the shore, towing the boy along until Liam's feet touched the bottom. It all happened in a few seconds. By now, all the adults were standing at the shore. Liam's mother ran to pick him up out of the shallows as he waded onto the sand. Oh, sweetie, she said as she held him close. Charles wading in behind him. Liam saw tears streaming down her face. Are you okay? He coughed. I'm fine, he said. Sammy's mom ran to Sammy with a towel and wrapped him up in it. What were you thinking? The twins' fathers asked them. I've told you never to get in a boat without a life jacket on. Hunter hung his head. Sorry, he said. We were just fooling around. Sorry, Liam, said Tyler. I didn't know you couldn't swim. Even if he could, said their mom. That's not the point. No more boats for you two. Not today. Maybe not all summer. She shook her head. I'm very disappointed in you boys. Then she knelt down and opened her arms. And I'm also very glad you're safe, she said. The twins ran to her for a hug, and their father joined in too. Charles' mom hugged him and rubbed her hands up and down his arms. You must be freezing, she said. Let's go get you a towel." "That was some brave thing you did there, Chief," said Charles' dad. Charles ducked his head. "I didn't do anything," he said. "Louie's the one who saved Liam." "Louie!" Liam wasn't coughing anymore. His voice was loud and clear. They all turned to see Louie rolling in the grass, his feet dancing in the air. The big pup jumped up and shook himself off, then stood wagging his tail, a big doggy grin on his face. "That's my name! Or at least I guess it is now." "Louie!" all the boys yelled as they raced over to hug him. Louie wasn't shy now. This time he just stood and wagged and grinned, while the boys climbed all over him. You're a hero, Louie," said Tyler. "Definitely not a wimp," said Hunter. Charles laughed. Finally, the twins had found something they agreed on. "You did it," he said to the big puppy as he kissed Louie's nose. "Louie! Louie! Louie!" chanted Sammy. Liam just threw his arms around Louie's neck and pressed his face into the big dog's wet fur. "Well, I guess this settles in," said Mrs. Pulley as they all walked back to the picnic tables. "I've been talking to my landlord about buying the house we're renting, and he's agreed. Do you know what that means, Liam?" She smiled down at him. He shook his head. "That we won't have to move again anytime soon?" he asked. "Well, yes," said his mom, "but something else too. If we own our house instead of renting it, we can have a dog if we want." Liam stared at her. "A dog?" he asked. "Well, not just any dog," said Miss Pulley. "I've been thinking maybe we should adopt Louie." "Then what happened today? Maybe we Well, not just any dog," said Miss Pulley. "I've been thinking maybe we should adopt Louie. And then what happened today made me sure that we should." All the boys cheered. "Louie! Louie! Louie!" chanted Tyler and Hunter. Charles grinned. He knew Louie would be really happy living with Liam and his mom, and he can still be our Cub Scout project too. He said, "If you ever want to help with training or taking care of him, we all love Louie," said Miss Pagano. "This is one dog I will be honored to allow in my house anytime. We love to have him too," said Sammy's dad. "The big lug is welcome over at our place." "And ours, of course," said Charles' mom. All 5 boys ran over to hug Louie. "Welcome to the den," said Charles. Louie wagged his tail and wriggled all over with happiness as he tried to lick every face at once. The big puppy had found not just one perfect home, but 4. So guys, that is the end of the book. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this book, Louie, the Puppy Place, where every puppy finds a home. And guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment all down below. And bye! See you next time.